Hi my loves, welcome to a new reading vlog. So this reading vlog is for the 12 books challenge. So this is February's book choice for the challenge, and I am going to read the one and only Anxious People by Frederick Backman. This was recommended to me by Heather. Actually, a couple of books that I have put on my TBR for this challenge is by Heather, so technically I haven't actually got 12 friends. But I didn't realise that till after the TBR video, and I was just like, I'm not going to change it now. Plus, some of the recommendations she gave me were books that I was quite interested in, so I was like, whatever. But we're going to read Anxious People, and I am going to tell you now, I have no idea what to expect in this book. I am actually making myself go into this book with quite low expectations, because at the moment, a few books that I've been really like, oh, I think I'm going to love this, it's going to be brilliant, has been a complete flop for me. I'm going to cough, excuse me. Sorry. So I'm going low with this because I have no idea what to expect. I know this is basically a bank robber who takes over it's New Year's Eve and house tricks estate agents are showing people around an upmarket apartment when an incompetent bank robber rushes in and politely takes everyone hostage. So when I first saw this synopsis, I was like, oh, it's going to be a crime thriller. However, when I looked on Amazon and looked at like what the genres it's classed as, or like, you know what I mean, I noticed that crime thriller was not one of them. It was LGBT plus fiction, it was literary fiction, it was humour fiction, but nothing said crime thriller. So I'm kind of going into this book, and by what the little review, like blurb reviews say on here, I'm kind of going into this book thinking, right, it's not actually a crime thriller, it's going to be more of like a funny book, it's going to be more concentrated on characters and like their life and stuff. Like it says here, a laugh out loud funny and will help you restore your faith in humanity, captures the messy essence of being human, as likely to make you laugh as it is to make you cry. Backman writes so humorously and poignantly about life, marriage, parenthood, love and death. I laughed, I sobbed, I recommended it to literally everyone I know. So I'm kind of basically going into this thinking, right, yes, there's a bank robbery going on, but it's not a crime thriller, it's more focusing on the characters and about their life and stuff like that. So I don't know what to feel about this. So I'm kind of going into this thinking, right, we don't know where we're going to sway to it. But it is a Netflix series, and I have had a look, and it is a limited series, so I think it ends like the end of this month. So what I'm going to do in this vlog is I'm actually going to read this first, give you all my thoughts through reading, and then I'm going to watch the TV series after I've read it, and then I'm going to give you like a review of this, and then a review of the TV series. But I have watched a little bit of the trailer of the TV series and it looks really good, so I'm hoping I'm going to enjoy both. So we'll see. So this is what we're going to do in this vlog. I am just going to read this. I'm not sure how long this is going to take me. Technically, if I love it, I can probably binge it in one go. However, I do have to go down to Weston to go and get my 4th COVID booster. Apparently, I'm going to like constantly get boosters like all the time now. So I'm having my 4th COVID booster. So I'm going to go down and go and have lunch with my dad, and then I'm going to go to the doctors to get it done. Last time, all my other like jabs I've had done at a different doctor's surgery, but the doctors haven't actually bothered telling me that I need a 4th booster thing. I just got a letter, and so I went on the website and booked in, and my nearest one was Western, so I was like, well, that's fine. So I'm going to go and have lunch with my dad, and I'm going to have that done, but it depends how I feel afterwards. I have noticed in all of my jabs I've had a horrendous headache, which completely knocks me out. I'm hoping, because this is like my 4th booster, and you know, I've had the jabs, I've also had COVID, so I'm hoping, and like fingers crossed, I'm not going to have that headache, and that my body's probably finally like, okay. But with what's wrong with me, I've obviously got, I'm immune suppressed and everything, my body just wants to attack everything, so we'll see how I feel. So I am going to do some reading, but if I do get that headache, I can't, like literally I cannot do anything. I tend to have to just go to sleep, so it might be that I probably won't finish it until tomorrow. It all depends on how I feel after my booster jab, but we are going to start reading it and go from there. But if it takes me a while, it's not going to take me longer than 2 days. But yeah, I'm really excited for this. I do not know where it's going to go. I do not know like where my thoughts are going to be for it, but let's see. So yeah, I will catch up with you all when I've got some reading update, and I can tell you what actually is going to going on, so I know, because I didn't really know what's going on, to be honest. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this vlog, and I'll catch up with you later. Already having a chuckle at this book. It says, this story is about a lot of things, but mostly about idiots. I love it already, the fact it's just said that. I'd give you a little bit of a reading update of Anxious People. I'm going to admit I haven't read much. I am currently on page 74, chapter 21. There are very short chapters. Some of the chapters are even like a paragraph. This is very good. Like, there's not a lot of happening. It's not my typical book, but it's a very easy and quick read, and it's actually quite, like, I feel in some ways that I'm reading like a non-fiction book, because like we're talking about like mental health. There was like a suicide bit in here. It also talks about a marriage breakup and things like that. Like, there's a lot of like heavy things in, but like I read it and I feel like I'm reading like a non-fiction book. I'm reading a book that's like sort of getting you to get out of this like rut and stuff like that, but it's not. It's just, this is classed as a robbery drama. What it says in here, it's a robbery drama kind of gone wrong. And at the moment, the characters are sort of got like in depth of what's going on with them. Is we follow a son and father who are both policemen, and they work in the same department. They work alongside each other, and the son policeman is obviously young. He's like very much in a different era to his dad. He has different ideas of what being in a police force is. His father is very much very close to like retirement. He's very much in the old ways of policing and things like that, and they don't get on well at a workplace, and everyone said they shouldn't work together and all that, and it makes sense. But basically they're obviously interviewing people about this robbery. So basically what happens is House Tricks estate agents does an open house because they're like that, they're weird, they don't care. That is a day before New Year's Eve, and a bank robber a bank robber tries to rob a bank, but this particular bank is a cashless bank. Never heard of a cashless bank, don't know whether that's actually a thing, so if it is a thing, wow. And basically he has to get a set amount he wants to steal, which is 6,500, and basically the woman at this bank wasn't very nice to him, and a woman on this bank called the police, and when he like ran out, he thought he saw a policeman and completely freaked and ended up running into the staircase sort of thing, not sure what he was doing, just ran up all the way up the stairs, and he saw this open apartment and he just went there. But obviously he had a pistol, he had a gun, and so he decided to like take over this place. He wasn't thinking, basically, but he thought that the pistol that he had was a toy gun. Turns out it wasn't. Everyone at the apartment, like the estate agent and the people there looking at the open apartment, they all thought it was a toy gun. The police managed to get them all out, and the bank robber was still there, and then they hear a bang, and the police all go up, and the first on the scene is the son policeman, the young one. He comes in and sees loads of blood, but no hostage. So they're currently now trying to find where this hostage is. They're like, surely, like, he hasn't come out the apartment, so he must still be in the apartment, but this apartment, it's an open plan apartment, so there's hardly any, like, storage room stuff like that. But we're sort of getting in-depth things about certain characters already. So we have got Jim and Jack's, the policeman, their perspective. So Jack, he's gotten this thing that he wants to save everyone, regardless if they're bad or not. He wants to save them, and that happened because he was in a car with his mum and his dad. His mum is a priest, his dad was a policeman. He was 7 or 8 years old, and basically they were going across like a rail bridge thing, and he saw a man on a railway bridge about to jump, and so he was like, nope, I want to help him. So he came out of the car, went to this man, he goes, don't jump, let's talk about it and all that. So he manages to get the whole story of this man on the rail bridge and all that, and he honestly thought this person had stepped down. He stepped down, and then he stepped up and he jumped. It's not graphic, but it's graphic enough to know that there's a suicide and all that. I wish there was a trigger warning, because there are, some people who that would really upset them. Like, I had a bit of a lump in my throat, but I didn't bawl my eyes out or anything. And, being 8 years old, that's going to mess you up, especially when you feel like you're the one who you feel like you didn't help. And basically, you then sort of get a little background of why this person jumped, even though he's not part of this book and specific bit, but it just sort of went in depth with that. And then the reason sort of behind why Jack wanted to become a policeman was the second time he went to help someone who was going to jump off a railway line. Lucky enough, that girl didn't jump, and so he sort of from then on decided that no, he wanted to be a policeman, he wanted to help people. So because of this bank robber, he's very much concerned, because it's clear that the bank robber is hurt, he's bleeding, and regardless of what the bank robber's done, he wants to save him. So he's got like this saviour's complex. He's just he can't shut it off. It's very clear that he's got PTSD and probably hasn't got any help from it, because he's got nightmares. He's like using sleeping pills, he's using alcohol, like anyway to try and get rid of these nightmares. So it feels like he hasn't got that help. And Jim, his dad, never wanted him to be a policeman. He wanted him to do something else. You can see his son's struggling with things, and he's obviously trying to help him in his workspace, but Jack doesn't like it because he feels like his dad's just been overbearing and everything and not letting him do his job. He's not realising that actually his dad's just looking out for him, like personally, but also at work and sort of things. And then we sort of briefly get like an interview between the policeman Jack and the estate agent, who is dippy as anything, so stupid, and you're like, oh my word. Like, honestly, I read this and I thought, please tell me this is not generally her, because like, wow. So we had a bit of that, but we are currently focusing on the bank robber himself. And I'm not gonna lie, I actually feel really bad for this bank robber. So basically, he put... No, that's... Yeah, sorry, I'm just remembering the story of the jumper. Basically, the jumper did like an investment with the bank, did all these things. He said, like, you put this money in, you'll like triple it, blah, blah, blah. And then that bank went completely bust. But instead of them losing money, the people who invested in them lost his money. So he lost like all his money. He then lost his job. He lost his house. His kids, like, he can't now support his kids, and he tried to get a loan out from the bank. They pretty much were horrible and said no, so he killed himself. That was his story. But the bank robber, basically, he's had a tough time as a kid. Like, his mum was a substance abuser, and so, you know, she spent their money on drugs and alcohol and things like that. So, you know, he sort of stole when he could. Like, he pretended that his mum stole, and he pretended that he stole it, but because he was a kid they couldn't do anything, blah blah blah. So he's had a rough childhood. He then, you know, he finally got into a good place growing up. He met someone, he got married, they had kids, he had a job and all that. And then it turns out that he finds out that his wife has had an affair, and quite a long affair. It's been going on, and then it turns out the affair is with his boss. So he's been working overtime with very little like pay for the overtime, purely because his boss has gone out pretty much shagging his wife. Because he doesn't want his children to have what he had, where like all his, like, you know, they just see the parents arguing and parents being angry and depressed and stuff like that. He like moved out. He then lost his job because his boss was like, look, this is a really uncomfortable position we're in, like, it's better that you go and find a different job, even though he has done nothing wrong. He's the one who's been hurt, but no, he's been suffered. And then because he has no job, he's got no money, he's got nowhere to live, because he's been kicked out of his Marshall home, and because the Marshall home's in his wife's name and not him, he can't stay there and all of that. And his wife's now filed sole custody because he's got nowhere to live, so she doesn't want his kids to be there. And basically the reason why he was trying to rob a bank with a specific amount was he found an apartment quite close to where his kids live, and it's $6,500. I'm guessing it's American. Yeah, New York. Yeah. So $6,500, not New York. Sorry, it's in Sweden, isn't it? Oh, I can't remember. Whatever. Yeah, Sweden. Sorry, it's 6,500, not dollars. It's krona. Am I right? Krona. Whatever. That's just a deposit for flat, or the rent for the flat, one of the two. So that's why he went in to bank rob, and obviously it was a cashless thing. And the policeman he thought he saw wasn't. It was just a traffic warden. So if he realised it was a traffic warden, he would have just not done what he did. But because he saw that, he freaked. He went up staircase. It was obviously his block of apartments. There was an open apartment. He's waving his gun around, thinking it's fake. The police get involved. Like, he takes them as a hostage, just, you know, but never does it as a ransom or get money off them. Like, people, like, he did not work any of this out. You know, he just thought he would do this. Boom, boom, gone, done. End of troubles. And you can't help but feel for him. Like, he's doing this basically so he can see his children. And I'm there thinking, do you know what that woman done is horrible, and the fact that she's like using her children as well. And this man has done absolutely nothing wrong, and because of that, he's doing this. He's possibly shot. We don't know where he is, and yeah, I feel for him. And it's very rare that I feel emotions and sympathy for for someone who's a criminal, basically. Even though in hindsight, has he actually done anything criminally? That's not a word. Like, has he done anything wrong? No, he didn't rob a bank. He didn't succeed. He took people hostage, but he didn't actually hurt them. There was no ransom or anything. He just sort of went in there and waved his gun and just sort of chilled in the corner, kind of thing. So it's very much, he just had no plan. So that's where we're at. There are so many bits in here, like the mental health representations, just really done well. There was I need to actually highlight so I can go back. I'll probably come back later in this vlog and tell you the bits that really hit home. But there was one bit about being a parent that really hit home to me. I was just like, oh my god, that is just so true. Like, you know, after this, I will highlight the things that I do, because I've dog-eared it down, but I need to fully look what it was that I dog-eared it for. Later on in this vlog, I will tell you what those bits were, but like, it's different. It's an easy read. I'm not getting 5 stars at this particular minute, but I'm literally that much in. And we're just getting at the start of things. Like, you know, we're not getting the characters that are in here. Like, we've got like characters here is Annalena and Roger, who are trying to buy apartments to fill a hole in their marriage. Julia and Ro are panicky parents-to-be, is yet another worry. And we got lonely bank manager Zara, and then we have 87-year-old grandmother Estelle, and then obviously we got the police and the bank robber. So I haven't got any of them yet. We've just sort of got little bits like that. Like, I'm not, like, it was at the start with the man who committed suicide, I was sort of like, what's this got to do with it? And it was straight at the start, and I was like, oh, we should have probably had trigger warnings. I don't think there were trigger warnings. I never actually checked. No. Like, I felt like, you know, that's straight at the start of the book. We should have probably had a trigger warning. And I kind of was like, how's this to do with this book? This person's dead, so what's it got to do? But it obviously makes sense on the policeman's son and policeman father, Jack and Jim. So yeah, I can see how this book is going. You're sort of getting their backstories of why they're here and all that. So it's like mini stories. Like, to me, it feels like mini short stories of each character and the reason why they are where they are at this particular moment, which is really good. And like, you know, I am like, I'm not heartbroken, I'm not crying my eyes out, but I am certainly very much like sympathetic with someone, and I'm thinking, oh, actually no, I can see why they've done this. So yeah, like I've read loads of chapters per se, but I haven't read much. I keep getting distracted. I had guinea pig cuddles, I had chocolate huggles, which you would have saw, but my mum came back from town being with my nan, and my nan was there, so I had a little catch up with my nan. She bought me chocolate, and I went into Asda to get more chocolate, so I'm all sorted for chocolate now. And so I did that. I did some reading. I am getting distracted because I'm sort of downstairs chilling with my family rather than reading up here where I don't have any things, but I've been spending a lot of time in my room, and I thought, well, do you know what, I should spend time with my folks. So like, it's very clear that I'm not going to finish this book today, but that's fine. I will definitely concentrate on it this evening when I'm in bed and read, hopefully get halfway and read the next half the following day. But yeah, I'm really enjoying it. I had my vaccine. Apart from an achy arm, I'm feeling okay. So I actually got a different vaccine. So I've had the Pfizer jabs. All three of mine have been Pfizer. And so I've got a different one. And they had to do it in, they couldn't give you like the full amount. I don't know why. I don't know whether that was the same with the Pfizer jabs or not. I'm not 100% sure. It's been a while since I had my first one to remember. But basically, I had that, and 28 days later, I have to have the second one for the vaccine to do like a full effect. So I got a new one, and obviously this has similar properties like Pfizer. So he said you should be alright. You shouldn't have like any drastic symptoms. He said you might just get an achy arm. He said, but because it's a different one to what you've used to, it could be you get an achy arm, flu-like symptoms. But if I have any like really bad reactions, call 111 or go to A&E sort of thing. But I haven't had a headache or anything. I've got an achy arm, but makes sense because I usually do. But also I bled, so I've got a little bit of a bruise there as well. I did take some Brufen anyway, just because I had an achy arm, and I thought, it would just make it feel better. But yeah, I feel fine, so that's good. I had McDonald's, which you saw. I was going to have a cheeseburger Happy Meal because it's smaller and that, and I wanted to have a little toy for Alice, but I ended up going for chicken nuggets because I can be a bit hit and miss with the cheeseburgers. Like, sometimes it gives me horrendous tummy ache, and I was like, I don't really want to have a tummy ache and possibly have some side effects to the jab, because then I'll just feel rotten. But yeah, did that. And then I read, so I am going to read a bit more, try and read a bit more. If not, when I go into bed, I will definitely do a big chunk then. But I am enjoying it. It's bizarre, it's very interesting, it's very easy read. But I do want it to now, like, come on, let's get to the characters that I mentioned. Let's get into what happened in this apartment, because obviously something happened. Like, what happened with the gun going off, that kind of thing. Like, I want to know those bits. But yeah, that's that. I will catch up with you probably tomorrow when I've read a lot more and I can give you a bit more thoughts. And then hopefully next time after that, I would have finished the book and then I can watch the TV series. Yeah, I will catch up with you tomorrow. And yeah, I'm going to go and get comfortable. I'm going to go and eat my chocolate that I bought and continue reading. Good afternoon, my loves. I thought I'd come on and give you a little bit of a reading update. So I'm currently on chapter 36, page 175. So I'm just off the halfway point. Like, I think I probably got maybe a couple more chapters till I'm halfway. But I would say like I'm a quarter in. And I am enjoying it. But there are times where I've gotten extremely confused. And then you have to continue on reading and then everything falls place and you're like, oh, which I think is very clever. Like, there is a massive cast of characters in this book. Like, I'm honestly going to say this is way more characters than you get in an Agatha Christie book, and she has loads of characters in her books. But like, we have these like main characters, but then I would say we've got like these side characters, and for a while you're like, what have these people got to do with the main characters? What have these people got to do with this with these people and with this like bank robbery and all that? Like, it doesn't make too much sense for a while, and there's like certain points here where I'm thinking, why do we need this in the book? But Frederick Backman does it in a sense where actually you think that, but you have to continue reading because obviously you're like, right, I want to know what's going on because it leaves these little breadcrumbs. And then a couple of chapters in, you then understand why this side character is mentioned, because the side character's got a lot to do with the main character sort of thing. And you're like, oh. So basically, like at the start of this book, we get the suicide. We get the suicide of this man who is a father of 2 children. He commits suicide because basically he put money in to this like sort of thing with the bank, and the bank went bust, but the bank didn't lose money. It was just the people who were involved with the bank lost money. So he's trying to get a loan out, and all of this just so he can get a place to live and things like that because he's homeless. You know, he's really upset about all of this. Anyway, he obviously commits suicide, and for a while it's like, why is this got to do with this? Because at first when I read it, I thought maybe it was the bank robber, that something happened to the bank robber, and this is what happens to the bank robber at the end. Like, it was the end of the story, and then you get all leading up to it, but it isn't. Basically, the man who committed suicide sort of started like a chain reaction to some of these characters that are currently being taken hostage. So we sort of go into different characters. Like, we've got about the police. So obviously Jack is the lad who was 8 years old and tried taking the man who committed suicide, talking him down from doing just that, but he watched a man do it. So that's caused a catastrophic event in his life. You know, he's got PTSD, he's struggling, he gets nightmares of it, and he's got this sort of saviour complex now where he wants to save everyone, regardless if they're good or bad, whether they deserve it or not. He wants to save people because he couldn't do it with this man. And so a couple of weeks after that, he found a girl who was contemplating on doing exactly the same thing, and he managed to talk her down from it. That's what was said, but we've now actually gone in and realised that this person actually didn't get talked down. Jack's actually pushed her off, but she went and whacked her head and got taken into hospital, and Jack sort of disappeared because obviously he didn't want to be done for actually hurting her. And so that sort of started him thinking, nope, he wants to follow in his footsteps of his dad and help. You know, if there's situations where someone's jumping and the police is involved, he's hoping that he can talk them down and all that. So he's like, that sort of opens up Jack's character. And then we sort of get mentioned about, like, as you go into the story, we get mentioned a man again who committed suicide, and it's talking about he gave a letter to someone in the bank. And then we're meeting Zara's character, who's currently in an interview with the police and everything. And you sort of get, like, so you get interviews with police, but you also get, like, what actually went on in the apartment with the hostage and all that. And you realise that she's, like, her story is She carries this envelope in her handbag, but she's never opened it, and she's had it for years. She currently is having therapy with a psychologist, whatever. I can't get my words out today. She's going to therapy with a therapist, and she won't be honest as a therapist, but the therapist knows that she's extremely lonely, that she's extremely low, and this therapist tells her to get a hobby, and she comes back and says that she's found a hobby, that she's apartment hunting, but she's apartment hunting like not for her, but she's doing it to see like what the poor people do. Like it's quite twisted and messed up and horrible what she does. But actually what she's doing is she's going to apartments that have balconies that are look over to the bridge, which is the bridge that this man committed suicide. And it has come clear that she's been doing this for 10 years. She's been contemplating on suicide. The reason why she's gone to therapy is she kept asking her doctors to give her sleeping pills so she could top herself, but they only give a certain amount, and they're like, no, if you're struggling with sleep, you need to go and see a therapist. So she's like sort of doing that, thinking the therapist will give her these pills, but the therapist said, no, I don't do that. It's, and then it comes clear that Zara was interlinked with the man who committed suicide, and basically he went to see Zara at the bank. He asked her for this, and she was really rude to him. She didn't offer him. She was really nasty to him, and that sort of topped him over even more of wanting to end his life. So he wrote her a letter and he sent it, and she obviously got the letter after he committed suicide. But obviously his suicide was all over the news. They didn't actually say who the person was, but she soon clocked on from like looking up what it was, that it was someone, she was the last person to actually see him, and she kind of feels like it's all her fault. And then she received this letter, and she knows instantly this letter is from him, but she still hasn't opened it because she doesn't know whether this letter is going to be like a suicide letter and say it's all her fault, or whether she doesn't know, and she basically is too scared to find out how bad she was. And so you have that, and then obviously you then get like a background with the therapist, and at first I'm like, well, why do we need to know about the therapist? She's got nothing to do with this hostage scenario at the moment, like why? But then you get her backstory. So she's got a framed like art canvas picture sort of thing of a woman on a bridge and looking out the bridge, and she has a reason why it's there. And Sarah went and said, why have you got a art picture of someone thinking about ending their lives? And she turned around to Sarah and said, you're the first person who saw it like that. Like everyone else saw it as like this person's looking out, reflecting on life, or looking out, looking for new adventure, stuff like that. But she was the first person to look at it as this person's maybe contemplating on jumping off the bridge. And it was the reason why this therapist had it on there, because it was her reminder of what happened to her when she was a kid, and her reminder to never get to that point then, which leads to the girl, the teenager that Jax saved, the second person who tried committing suicide was this therapist. So her name's Nadia, and she's got nothing exactly wrong in her life. She's not been bullied or anything, but she's in such a dark space that she, like, I don't know whereabouts it is. Yeah, okay. So it's explaining Nadia's depression. It said all Nadia knew was that she had never felt like someone who had anything in common with anyone else. She had always been entirely alone in every emotion. She sat in a classroom full of her contemporaries, looking like everything was the same as usual, but instead she was standing in a forest screaming into a heartburst. The trees grew until one day the sunlight could no longer break through the foliage, and the darkness in there became impenetrable. This is very, very good at describing mental health. Like the mental health representation in here is excellent. And there's a few moments where I'm thinking, oh my god, this explains exactly how I felt in my adolescence when I was really badly depressed. I still have my moments, but I'm more of an anxious person now, and rather than suffering a depression, but I did suffer a lot back when I was younger. And the mental health representation in here is just absolutely spot on. It's really well done, and there's moments where I'm thinking, oh my god, you just nailed it on the head. But Nadia was the one who was suffering with really bad depression. She basically did what I tried to do, whereas was sort of you don't tell someone that you're really struggling, but you do it in a way where you're screaming for help. Like for my this is going to be a bit triggering for people, so be prepared. But for my case, I started cutting myself, not too deep, not too like nasty, but enough that people would notice. And I used to do it on my arms where everyone could see, and it was my way of saying, guys, I'm not coping. Like, come and check on me. And your peers, your age peers, they don't tend to notice that. Or if they do, they don't do anything about it because I think they sort of know, all right, she's struggling, I don't want to get involved. But bless, my family were very on top of things. They saw it, they knew, they got my help. And that's what Nadia did. Like, she was sort of trying to put her out there to say, I'm struggling, I need someone to be there for me without asking for the help. And that didn't happen. And so she contemplated on suicide, but Jax stopped her from doing so. And Zara was actually there. Zara's there. She saw everything that happened, but she froze. She didn't know what to do. Like, she wanted to help her and all that. So she's actually been following this psychologist throughout her life. So it sort of was interlinked why she's doing it and like why Nadia's doing that. It's very interesting how you get all of these bits where you're thinking, why is this going on? I don't get it. Like, why is this side character mentioned? They've got nothing to do with it. But actually, every single thing in this book is interlinked. There's like, it's all like emerged together while they're all together and all that, and you're like, ooh. But there has been a little bit of a plot twist on here, and I'm not sure where it's going, and it now makes sense why, when I saw the trailer of Anxious People, why there wasn't Rabbit in there. But basically, currently, there is a rabbit inside the apartment's toilet, and he's got something to do with Annalena. So she said something. I think she believes that her husband Roger is going to leave her. They're doing all of these like restorative things to, they're buying apartments, restoring them, and then selling them on. They're retired, but they're doing all this because literally they have nothing else in their marriage, and this is the only way where they're together. They can do things, they can talk to each other. The minute they have nothing to do, everything goes to pot. And she's sort of going on about this rabbit. There's this rabbit in the toilet, and Roger went to go and open the door, and she said, no, Roger, don't. So this rabbit's got something to do with possibly, maybe, I don't know, doing something to Roger or something. I don't know. But at the moment, none of them can go in the toilet because it's locked. But it's clear that there's someone in there, and it's clear from Annalena there's something to do with a rabbit. So I'm guessing it's the rabbit. And I'm there thinking, oh, this has just got even more intriguing. But we're also getting like that insight of the bank robber and why he's doing what he's doing. And I'm sort of there thinking, is this bank robber actually alive or is he dead? Like, all we know is someone got shot, there's blood everywhere, and the bank robber isn't there. But it's like, it's very, very clever how it's done. I would say that this isn't extremely fast paced. Like, there's moments where I felt like it's gone quite slow, and I'm a bit like, okay, like, come on. And then we get to like little points and I'm like, okay, this makes sense. I understand why they're doing this now and all of that. But I'm not gonna lie, I really want to finish this today because I want to watch the movie, but also I am desperately wanting to read House of Sky of Breath, and I want to read this week while my daughter isn't with me because I've got time to read and vlog my experience. So I'm kind of like, come on, Amy, get your Jill, just get in this process and read. So I do need to grab some lunch because I got up late because I'm not feeling grand. I'm not going to lie, my arm is killing me and I woke up with a horrendous headache. I have taken some Brufen and my headache's gone, but my arm's still quite achy. But I'm going to grab some lunch. I do have to speak to my person for my volunteer role I do, so that will be an hour and 15 minutes. And then I will knuckle down reading. So I'm not going to read this quite yet. I'll probably pick it up at like have to probably at the latest, but then from then on I am going to binge read because I want to finish it so I can watch the movie tonight, not the movie, the TV adaptation, the TV series tonight, so then tomorrow I can read House of Sky of Breath because that's all I care about at the moment. Like, I'm enjoying this, but I'm now just like, I want this out of the way so I can read that book. So yeah, we're going to go and grab some lunch. I think I'm going to next update you when I finish the book because I have done a lot of talking on here. And if I carry on stopping and doing more talking, it's going to be forever. So I'm going to update you when I finished the book and I can give you my final thoughts and that. And then I will watch the TV series and then I will give you my thoughts of what I've, like, whether it was exactly the same as the book or what, and all of that. So yeah, I will catch up with you a little bit later on. It'll probably be, I don't know when, it might be in the evening, but my next update will be when I finish the book, hopefully. Or it might turn out to be a complete disaster and I feel rough and I don't read, but at the moment we're okay. I just got an achy heart. So I have finished Anxious People by Frederick Backman. I was kind of, as I was reading this, thinking, where's the like tear-jerking moments, because I wasn't getting emotional in the sense that I needed to cry my eyes out, but the last 3 or 4 chapters in this book I was a blubbering mess. So for me, they left the sad moments near the end, and it wasn't actually sad moments as in someone died or anything like that. It was sort of sad moments in the sense of people finally got their closure, people finally got their happiness, people finally understood things, sort of thing, and it was just, oh, that kind of sadness. Overall, this was a really clever, well done, thought-provoking book. It's not 5 stars for me. There were moments in this book where I felt we didn't need. There were moments that I just felt were really slow and lagging, and I was just like, get to the point. I'm kind of glad that I went into this with very little expectations. I'm glad I went into this knowing that it isn't actually like a hostage crime thriller. It's more focusing on people's feelings and emotions and why people have done what they've done. It very much focuses on mental health, and I honestly have to give Frederick Backman's I need to applaud him with how well he does mental health representation. When I read A Man Called Ove, I thought he did that so well done. I had started reading Beartown. I had to stop reading that just for certain things, which I'll explain in my February wrap-up video, but it is a book that I will continue later down the line. I just need to be in the right headspace for that. But even in that book, I could see how well the mental health representation was for that. And in this, I don't think I've ever read a book that's really gone right in deep in my heart and my soul and understood the feelings I feel. Like, I don't think I've ever been able to explain how I feel, but this book did. This book really explained some of the feelings I have. There are bits about being parents and what you do for your children and like all of this that I was just like, oh my god, yes, this like really resonates for me. And as well as that, we've also got like sort of side characters. Like everyone in this book's all interlinked together. You know, like I said with the psychologist, I said it right. She had some part of all of this in the sense that, you know, she tried to commit suicide, but Jack saved her. And in the end, in this book, Jack finds out from Zara who she is, and you know, says you might be able to help one another. And he meets her, and like, she finally gets her answer, and I'm wondering whether there might be a little bit of a romance there. Like, everything's sort of tied together, but what I also loved about all of that was also we finally revealed who the bank robber is, and in this book, it was written in a way that the bank robber was a man. Constantly through this book, it was sort of written in a sense, this is a man, this is the man's thoughts and all that, and then all of a sudden it came out that no, it wasn't a man, it was a woman. And so like the story in this bit was you know, this that the woman cheated on this father, this man. They were married and all that, and he was the one who needed to find 6,500 krona to get this flat so he could see his kids. But it was actually the other way round. It was the mother losing her kids because the husband was the one who had the most money, all that sort of thing. And so she decided to try and rob a bank, but with no disrespect to her, she didn't plan anything out like I think probably a man would do. Like, you know, and also I think, you know, she didn't have that emotional mental capacity to hurt someone like that, you know, she didn't want to. I think if it was a man, they wouldn't have that emotions in hindsight. So you finally find out why. You find out the like reason behind it, which you sort of know in the book anyway. You just assume it's a man. And what I loved about this was all of the hostages, even though in the end they realised the gun was real, even though the bank robber didn't know it was real, she thought it was a toy, they all assumed it was a toy, but it turned out that actually no, it was real. But basically they all wanted to help her, and it wasn't just them. So Jack and Jim, they obviously were interviewing to find out who it was, and they realised, well, Jack, being younger and being really wanting to have a win, sort of knew that the hostages, one of them was the bank robber. And I must admit, I kind of, when you got Jin's perspective, who was the older policeman and who's the dad of Jack, I sort of was thinking, is Jim playing dumb, or is he very much like it? Because there was like certain bits in his interviews that he did, I was just like, you don't do that, like that's very unprofessional and all that. But as you read into the book, I'm sort of now there thinking, actually, did he do this because they were all working together to make sure the bank robber never got found? Because basically Jim met the bank robber, saw that she was a woman, she didn't have the mask on or anything. He ended up like that, her hostage demands was to get pizza, like 8 different pizzas, and for fireworks, which I thought Estelle, because her husband who passed away, she gets lonely every New Year's because it used to be their way of celebration. He loved fireworks, so they did a fireworks play for her, so she felt like she was near her husband. You can kind of see that, you know, this bank robber, this woman, is nothing evil or anything. You know, she's trying to get money just so she can afford this flat, so she can see her kids. And I'm sorry, there are some mothers who don't deserve their kids, and I have met a few who I sure damn agree with that. But most mothers who have their kids taken off them for no reason, that breaks my heart. You know, that's my worst nightmare. You know, if Alice's dad turned around and was like, you're not fit and all that, you know, a lot, when me and him were out worse when we went to court, I honestly thought that he would bring my health problems involved. I thought he would bring my mental health stuff involved, and I was so worried that he would. And I remember my barrister saying, no judge would listen to that unless you're a harm to yourself or you're a harm to your kids. And he goes, and majority of the time that is not the case. Anyway, off pointer, but basically Jim was like, you're not evil, you're not actually doing this on purpose, like, and he basically was like, I don't want to arrest you, like, we need to find a way so you don't get arrested, because regardless if she harmed her hostages, regardless if the pistol wasn't real, she would have still been put in prison, and then, you know, she would never get to see her kids and all that. So in the end, Estelle was the one who, so Estelle, you sort of like, who is she? Like, you think she's apartment hunting, but actually the apartment that they're looking at is Estelle's apartment. It was like her daughters and all that, but she'd been living there and all that. She decided that she didn't want to actually sell it or anything, but there was an apartment opposite that is actually up for sale, but they didn't want to put it on at the same time, because usually when you have 2 apartments for sale, it's like a rivalry. You try, if one's cheaper, you know, the other one wants to be even cheaper, or the other way around. And so the Roe and Julia had the other apartment. They wanted that, they bought that, and Estelle kept her own apartment. And she basically in the end has the bank robber living with her. They sort of flat share together, the kids come around, and then when Estelle passes away, the bank robber, it's left to her. Anyway, they end up sneaking her into the opposite apartment, because the Estelle actually had the opposite apartment's key, because it used to be a neighbour that she was really close to. He gave her a spare key because I think he was hoping that maybe there must be something more. No one bothered to change the locks when he died, and vice versa. She still had the keys to that apartment, so the bank robber stayed in there while they all walked out. So there was the bank robber, like the actual proper estate agent went out. So like the police had no idea, but Jim told Jack the truth because he had to, and Jack made the decision that actually he was, like, you know, he basically had the decision of he arrests, but it also means that his father will be done because he's, you know, gotten involved and prevented justice and all that. And Jack was obviously, like, he didn't sort of agree what his father did, but he sort of understood why. And, you know, he too was very much, you know, all he wants is to save this person. So he did a blind eye, and, like, you know, the police couldn't do anything more. They were like, oh, it's, you know, no harm was done. So it sort of ended like that, which was really good. But it just ended in a way that everything that was mentioned, it all got tied together. Like, Zara finally meets someone, which is the man. Like, so, you know, I said there was a rabbit, so the rabbit basically was Annalina's thing. So I thought he was a baddie. Like, I honestly thought he was, like, actually the real robber or something. Turns out that Annalina has been hiring for the last couple of years for him to be like a really bad neighbour to these apartments. So they buy these apartments that are a lot cheaper. So he's pretended to be a neighbour who watches a lot of porn, or he's pretended to be a neighbour who's constantly playing music really loudly at silly o'clock at night. So like people will say, right, we want this apartment, but we don't want it this price. We want it knocked down, and that's what Annalena did. But Roger thought it was his like bartering things to get the price down, when actually it was what Annalena did. And so Zara ends up, well, the man behind the rabbit mask is called Lennart, and he sort of took a partial liking to Zara, and Zara sort of quite likes him because he literally looked right inside her, into her heart and soul, really saw her, which no one's ever done. And so they're like, it's clear that she's sort of letting things in. Also, she's also made a decision that she doesn't want to be in the bank anymore. Like, it's not doing her any good. She finally, well, she got her psychologist Nadia to open up the letter, and the letter said, it's not your fault, and she just needed those 4 words. And so she's now, since all the money that she's had, she's actually sent to a camp which is like suicide survivors or suicide children who've been impacted by someone in a life to commit suicide, stuff like that. So all the money's gone on there. So that was really nice tie-in. Obviously, Zara tells Jack about Nadia, and then she gives Jack a letter that she wrote for him to give to Nadia, and so she opens it up, and it's saying, you're the one who saved yourself, but he was there to, but he was only just there. And she saw him and all that, and you know, she understood. So it sort of clears up these two. I think she's going to help him with his trauma from what he saw with the suicide man, but also he will help her in a sense. It's everything's all tied together. It's just really done well. You've got about Ro and Julia, because obviously they're parents to be, but they're sort of like regretting everything, and that all ended well. Like, it was just so well done. And you know, I wish it would, for me, just to make it 5 stars, it would be to be a bit more faster paced, and just to take out certain bits that I didn't think was completely necessary. But other than that, like, it was just so well done how they did it, how everything at first you're like, how's this tying in with anything, and then you get these little bits here and then you're like, oh, and then there's even more to it. But just the mental health representation and other representation in it, it was just so well done. And I was just like, you know what, like, you don't realise how much that actually helps you, how much that impacts you. So yeah, a really, really good book. And yeah, I think it's going to be a book that's going to stay with me. So I have said that I was going to watch the TV series, and I kind of feel like, oh, shall I, shan't I? Because honestly, I don't think the TV series is going to focus on the mental health representation, like the emotional side of things, like the book is. Like, I do think it's just going to focus on the like hostage drama that all went wrong. I don't honestly think it's going to focus a lot on the mental health and emotional aspects of this book. Like, I could technically try and, you know, watch a couple and get a feel and see whether yes, actually it will not, but I were going to be totally honest, I'm thinking it's probably best if I don't, because I do find that a lot of book to TV or film adaptations, majority time, they don't live up to the book. So I'm not going to watch it tonight. I may decide to possibly watch it tomorrow, like, you know, get this sort of all sorted and then maybe watch it. But personally, I don't think I am. I think I'm just going to leave it here, leave this vlog here anyway, end it here. If I do watch the TV adaptation, I might just edit on here to say, you know, what my like little mini thoughts were. But personally, I think I don't want to, just because I don't think it's going to do this book justice. I don't think anything will do this book justice, because how it was written, I don't think you can ever capture that in a TV series or a film. So if I do change my mind, I may watch it tomorrow evening and just put the edit bit in here of like my final, like my, like, write down in this bit here what I thought. But the way I'm going at the minute, I'm thinking, no, it's just not going to be anywhere near like what this book is. And I already expect it not to be brilliant. So yeah, so we read it. I'm giving it 4 stars. It was a really, really thought-provoking book. Definitely recommend. Certainly a person who wants to read more of Frederick Backman's books, because he really just does write so emotionally and from the heart, in my opinion. Yeah, so another book down in the 12 book challenge, and another good book. Like, so far I've read 2 books that I thought were really good. So yeah, Thank you for watching this vlog. Take care, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.